Be confident, be bold, be authentic, but don't forget to take action. This is Ordinary to Badass, where our stories empower women to step into the spotlight of their own lives and pursue what they're truly passionate about. It's time to step into the arena and become more than just extraordinary. It's time to become a badass with your host, Marie Sonneman.
Welcome to Ordinary to Badass, episode number 79. In this episode, we talk with Courtney Slazinik. Courtney started her own photography business, Click It Up a Notch, from her kitchen. We talk about procrastination, atomic habits, and why done is better than good. Stay tuned because you won't want to miss this episode. But first, have you joined Let's Be Badass yet? If you love this podcast and want to get some behind the scenes and be able to ask people like Courtney or Nan Feinstein, who was on previously, if you want to ask people like this questions and kind of pick their brain a little bit, then Let's Be Badass is for you. You're going to watch the interview live and then get to ask questions. Also, you're going to be surrounded by other people who are who are striving for badassery. Let's increase our confidence and be total badasses. And then a lot of times it's easier to do it together, to do it with a group of people. And I know that you're going to love the upcoming months. Each month we'll have a theme, and then we'll also have accountability calls where you talk with other badass women who are in the arena trying to figure it out. So I would love for you to join Let's Be Badass. If you click on the show notes, then there will be a section in there or a link for Let's Be Badass. Join for the new year. Don't let another year pass you by without pushing yourself and finding out what you're truly capable of. I don't know about you, but I hate that feeling of regret. That feeling like I should have done something sooner. Why didn't I start this? Sometimes you don't know where to start. This group is going to help you become more decisive and start taking action. All right, now to the show. Welcome to Ordinary to Badass. Whether you're ordinary or badass, I'm glad you're here. Today's guest is Courtney Slazinik. Courtney, thank you so much for being on the show. Excited to have you here.
I'm so excited. Thanks for inviting me.
So first off, before we go any further, I've got to ask you, do you consider yourself ordinary or badass?
I would say probably a little more on the ordinary side.
Why do you say that?
I think I could get caught up in that mindset of, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have a business. I've got kids. And now this year we're homeschooling and remote learning. I feel like I'm kind of in the thick of it with everybody else right now.
As you list like a bunch of things that are badass, like you have your hands in all sorts of different things and you're doing it all. But sometimes that's how it works, where we don't see like our own badassery.
Mm-hmm.
So Courtney, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I am a mother of three. My husband and I have been married about 17 years. I'm an Air Force wife. We've lived in multiple countries, multiple states. And I would say I went to college to become an elementary school teacher, which is what I loved. And I taught for several years. And I always knew that once we had kids, I wanted to stay home with them. But then after a couple of years of staying home with them, I realized, oh boy, I need something else. Like nobody was coming home and telling me I was really good at changing diapers, And so I ended up getting into photography when my second daughter was born. And I kind of became obsessed with it. I was one of those people that chased after different hobbies to
Welcome to Ordinary to Badass. Whether you're ordinary or badass, I'm glad you're here. Today's guest is Courtney Slazinik. Courtney, thank you so much for being on the show. Excited to have you here.
I'm so excited. Thanks for inviting me.
So first off, before we go any further, I've got to ask you, do you consider yourself ordinary or badass?
Oh, I would say probably a little more on the ordinary side.
Why do you say that?
I think I could get caught up in that mindset of, oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom, I have a business, I've got kids, and now this year we're homeschooling and remote learning. I feel like I'm kind of in the thick of it with everybody else right now.
As you list like a bunch of things that are badass, like you have your hands in all sorts of different things and you're doing it all. But sometimes that's how it works where we don't see like our own badassery.
Mm-hmm.
So Courtney, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I am a mother of three. My husband and I have been married about 17 years. I'm an Air Force wife. We've lived in multiple countries, multiple states, and I would say I went to college to become an elementary school teacher, which is what I loved, and I taught for several years. And I always knew that once we had kids, I wanted to stay home with them. But then after a couple of years of staying home with them, I realized, oh boy, I need something else. Like nobody was coming home and telling me I was really good at changing diapers, And so I ended up getting into photography when my second daughter was born. And I kind of became obsessed with it. I was one of those people that chased after different hobbies to kind of find my place. And I quilt. My mom taught me how to quilt. And then I thought, oh, I'll start a little quilting business, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. And I ended up quitting everything I tried to do. But with photography, I kind of found this love and passion. And so in 2010, I started a Project 365, which is where you take a picture every day for a year. And at the time we were living in Japan. And so everyone loved it because they got to see the grandkids and, they felt connected to us. And after a few months of doing that, I had friends who were in the States all of a sudden writing me saying, your pictures are getting better. What are you doing? And then I had one of my friends offer to pay me, which I was just floored. Like, who would pay me to teach them? I didn't even really know what I was doing, but I knew a little bit more than she did. And so at the time, blogs were super popular in just the sense of just blogging, not necessarily online business. And I remember looking at this woman who was a big blogger at the time. And it was back in the day, I don't know if you guys remember, where you would sell ad space on the side of your blog for like $25 or something. And I counted up how many ads she had, and and then I went back to her page to buy ads, and I counted up how much money she was making a month. And I said to my husband, I think I can do it. Like, I think I could start a blog and teach people photography, because then I get to teach, which I love doing. And I think I can make like $300 a month. And he was like, what? No way. Like, no, that's just crazy talk. I'm like, listen, this lady on the internet is doing it. I really think I could. And so here we are 10 years later. I started Click It Up a Notch in September of 2010. And it has been just such a huge blessing for me and for our family. I think we've moved 3 or 4 times since I've had the business to multiple countries. And it's something that has been able to continue to go with me. And as a military spouse, that can be really tough, because it's very hard to find a new job every 2 to 3 years when you're moving with your spouse. So I love it. I love it.
I love that. So was that intimidating at all, from going to, like, you're just hear this lady on the internet that's doing it? Is it intimidating figuring it out for yourself in the beginning?
I don't think it was intimidating, only because I didn't have a lot of expectations for myself. I remember reading very early on that you had to commit 3 years. It took 3 years to make money online back in 2010. And so I remember thinking, okay, if I can do this for 3 years, then I will, of course, have figured it out, because that's what the internet says. And so I also think, because I didn't have a lot of pressure on myself or any really expectations, I just knew in the back of my head, I wanted it to work, because I didn't want to go back to work. I loved staying home with my girls, and I knew eventually they would go to school. And then, my husband and I would have the conversation of, okay, do you want to stay home? Do you want to go back to work? What do you want to do? And so I just thought, like, it'd be really cool if I could do this, and it could replace the need for me to work outside the home.
I love how you said, I wanted it to work because I didn't want to go back to work. But I think that's so important. And sometimes just the reason why you want to do it, to get away from something that you don't like, I think that can push you to do a little bit more.
For sure.
So this project you did in 2010, Project 365, where you took a picture every day, what did you learn through that process?
Oh my gosh, what did I not learn, honestly? I I mean, I learned a lot about photography, obviously, but what I really learned was and I mean, this sounds silly because it's just taking a picture every day, but because I was a quitter of sorts, I learned that I could do hard things. I know, again, like I said, I hear the silliness in there to say, oh, taking a picture and uploading it on a blog is not hard. Working out is hard. That I will quit 9 days out of 10. But it was, at the time we had 2.5 and a 3-month old, basically when I started that year. And so I was doing a lot of this while they were taking naps or when my husband was home. And so it was a commitment for me, but it made me realize, okay, I can do things if I want to do it, if I stay committed. And I think especially anyone who's wanting to do anything online, it is so easy to just say, there's so many people out there doing what I'm doing. This is exhausting. I have put in how many countless hours. I'm not seeing the results. And so it's easy to want to quit. And so I think being able to just commit to something like that and keep my own commitment to myself helped me realize, oh, I can do anything except workout.
So except workout, is that what you said?
I can't. I tried. I can't.
I like it. So before that Project 365, was your first inclination that you were interested in photography?
I always had a camera in my hands as a kid. And I remember probably our first Christmas together, my husband bought me like a fancy point and shoot. And I was always taking pictures. I remember his pilot training, the class, we couldn't afford a photographer. So I went out there and took photos. Looking at them now, it's like, oh boy. And so I love the idea of capturing those moments and freezing the moments. I just didn't understand what all was to photography. And so when I bought my camera, which was the day after my daughter was born, because we accidentally broke it like 10 minutes before I gave birth. And so I used the guilt my husband had, and I got myself a DSLR. And I thought, that's all you need. Like, great, I have the gear. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. And my photos were not awesome. And so I sweet talked a friend into teaching me everything she knew. So.
And how much later was that when you sweet talked a friend into teaching you?
About 2 months, because we had little ones about the same age. And I was like, no, your photos are so much better than mine. We have almost the exact same camera. Like, you're onto something and I don't know what it is.
I love that. So it sounds like, since your husband is in the Air Force and you guys have done a lot of traveling, what has been your favorite place that you've been to?
Oh my. Well, so we just moved back to the States a couple of months ago after 2 years in England, and we traveled so much when we were there. Probably one of my favorite places, because it was just an all-around amazing trip, was we went to Austria and did Salzburg and Hallstatt, and it was incredible.
That's so cool. Did you learn anything about yourself or your family when you were traveling?
Yeah, I learned I'm a terrible traveler. We had figured that out in 2014 when my husband and I went to Europe for a week for our 10-year. And I think at one point in the trip, we both kind of looked at each other and were like, well, we had a good 10 years. Like, it's too bad. Like, I was so like, I'm very high strung. And so traveling in a foreign country is very stressful. And so living in a foreign country, and we traveled about every 6 weeks to another country. And so I learned I do not like planning it, which I had to plan because my husband was extremely busy. And I had to learn that my personality I'm not like, oh, we'll just figure it out. We'll go, we'll have fun. It's no big deal. I know that I need scheduled. I need things planned. I need to know the 8 different ways to escape this train station if something happens. Like, I'm an Enneagram 6. I don't know if you guys are into that, but I am like always worst case scenario. So that was good for me to know, though, because when we had traveled in 2014, I kind of had just written it off. Like, I'm just not a good traveler. I'm not someone who can travel abroad. And that made me sad. And so I'm glad that I have figured out the things I need to do to help myself, because I love traveling. It's just very stressful.
So I really love how you said that you have to have the 8 different ways to escape. Like I'm a law enforcement officer, so that's kind of in my blood, and I just always have that running through my head in different situations. So I like that there's somebody else out there like that.
Of course. Yes. We should travel together.
Yeah. So let's pivot and talk a little bit about your wins. Can you share with us something that you're most proud of accomplishing?
Outside of children and a happy marriage and all of that, with my business, I would say it's creating products that people continue to buy. And I I wrote my first ebook in 2013, and I think it took me like 6 months because I'm a terrible writer and a procrastinator, and I knew I wanted to do it. And I had no idea of what a launch plan was. And so on December 19th, which is tomorrow, 7 years ago from tomorrow, I sent out an email to my list and just said, hey, I wrote an ebook. Do you want to buy it? Here's a link. I had accidentally messed up the code. So the first like 20 people got it completely free. I had left like this free code in there. And I remember going to bed that night, having sold it and saying to my husband, oh my gosh, I don't even remember the number, but I was just floored. And he was floored. And we both were like, but it's just a PDF. Like it's just literally something you made up. And it didn't really dawn on me until probably in 2017. We were talking to a friend and, we were explaining to him that I own a business online. I teach photography. And he said, okay, so did you go to school to be a photographer? No. But you went to school for like marketing and business? No, I'm in elementary school. I have a degree in that. I don't understand. Like, who says that you are a person to teach people? I'm like, nobody. And he's like, no, I don't understand. Like, how did you make a course and sell it to people? And I'm like, well, I could like, do you have 3 hours and I can talk you through the process? But he was just floored that he said, no, I don't, like, you literally made this up. You didn't go to school for it and people are paying you for it. And I was like, yeah, I did. That's crazy. And like, if you sit back and think about it, like, that's crazy. That is crazy. We live in a time where we can do that. My mom was also a military spouse, and she always had little businesses on the side, but hers always had to be in person at whatever base they were at, and going to little craft fairs or something. And I don't know. I'm really proud of that because I'm like, that's really cool. Like, I literally invented something in my kitchen one day and here we are.
Yeah, but I mean, it's props to you for going for it, for inventing it and going for it. I think sometimes we get this imposter syndrome,
Oh, 100%.
like where we think like, oh, I can't do it without a degree. I can't do it without this special program or having somebody teach me and having the certificate, but a lot of times it's just putting in the work and figuring it out as you go.
Yeah, 100%. Because especially when it comes to online, yes, if you're going to teach something very specific, like healthcare, like please have a certificate or a degree or something. Like, I'm not enforcing that. But there's a lot of things that more than some people, and that's all they want. They just want to know what you know. You don't have to be the best person at it. I know when I started in 2010, I had barely been shooting for a year in photography. And when I look back at my first stuff, I should not have been teaching anybody anything. I mean, I did not know what I was doing. And I remember hearing years later that a good business model, like there's several different business models, but one of them is to come along with me on this journey. And without knowing it, that's exactly what I did. I basically was trying to teach myself photography, and then I would learn something and I would apply it. And then 3 weeks later, I would write a blog post and, hey, I learned this. And so I think that's something that you're right, like that imposter syndrome, that idea of like, I'm not ready, I'm not the best at this, like that has nothing to do with growing a business.
Yes. And sometimes people like the come along with me kind of thing because they can see themselves in you, like as opposed to seeing some expert and they're like, I can't be that expert. But if you can see yourself in somebody just learning the process, like it makes it more exciting.
Yeah.
So earlier you mentioned that you're a procrastinator. Have you found anything along the way to help you get over procrastinating?
Yeah, the book Atomic Habits by James Clear is, I'm sure you've read it. I feel like everyone read it. It's so good. And helped me form better habits. I always thought I was a procrastinator because I didn't want to do it and I was kind of lazy. And I've read more on it. And this is one that sounds good to me. So I'm holding on to this as the reason why I'm a procrastinator. But it says a lot of times people who are procrastinators are perfectionists and they think they'll know more later. So I shouldn't write my blog post now or write the course I want to do now because I'll know more about that topic tomorrow, which isn't necessarily true if you're not actually reading or researching it or anything like that. But in my head, I'm still to this day, like before we hopped on here, I should have been writing a blog post. And I remember thinking, I'll do it after. Maybe I'll know more. Obviously, I'm not going to pick up any more while we were talking on, what was it? On candid photography was what I was going to write about, So, but yeah, that book helped me a lot because it made me form little habits throughout the day to make sure that I get what I need to do done.
So how do you talk yourself into just shipping it?
I start to give myself deadlines and I try to write a to-do list the day before. I feel like it's much easier to write a manageable to-do list the day before when you're still excited about it than to try and write it the morning of where you're tired and the kids need you and you're like, I just don't know if I want to do any of it. But if you look at 3 things on your to-do list that yesterday's Courtney was super excited about, then today's Courtney is just gonna have to buck up and do it.
I like it. So how do you find the time to do your business and then do stuff with your kids and then you're teaching your kids now at home? How do you find the time for it all?
Honestly, I don't. So I had a really good system before we moved to England. All 3 of my kids were in school for about the last year we were in Nebraska. They were all in school and I had a really great system. I would get them out the door. I would work while they're at school and they'd come home and I'd stop working and it was great. And then we moved to England and we were traveling more and my husband's job was not required. I volunteered a lot more with that position. And so then I was busier during the day. I ended up taking about a year off while we were in England because of how busy and our life kind of was. And with traveling and everything that I just decided to put this after 9 years on pause. And so I started up again this summer. And with COVID and everything, we are homeschooling. I have 3. So I'm homeschooling my 3rd and my 6th grader. And then my 8th grader is doing remote learning because for sanity reasons, she and I should not be homeschooling together. And so the first couple of weeks were really rocky and I was getting really frustrated. And my husband and I go on a walk every night after dinner. And I was telling him, like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm basically trying to rebuild this business because I took a year off and I don't know how I'm going to do that with the kids. And obviously I would never sacrifice them for the business. And so I finally said to them, okay, I am your teacher from 8:30 until 1:00. And at 1:00, I'm not your teacher anymore. I am working on my business. And if you need me after 1:00, luckily my husband is home more. And I'm like, you go talk to dad or you work faster. So they have learned their own time management because some of the stuff they need to do is, reading books or, something that is their own time that I'm telling them like math and the stuff that you guys need, that I'm teaching you, we need to be doing in the morning. That has helped a lot. It is not definitely this perfect day where my children at 1:00, they're like, good day, mother, go have fun at work. We will now entertain ourselves quietly. I
Right.
literally I just finished building a course. I had to use blue duct tape to cross off the doorways because I don't have doors. My husband's office upstairs has a door and I should have taken that one. But just kind of finding a system and then just really communicating it with the kids and my husband have helped. And he's always been so supportive and he's like, no, I totally get it. Go do your thing. Like right now everybody's home and I'm like, everyone has to be quiet and go upstairs. I'm doing a podcast. And he's like, yes, if you need anything, come talk to me. And so we're figuring it out.
Yes, but it's also life, like stuff is going to happen. Kids are going to come down, whatever, it's just roll with it.
That's right. It's this year, right?
Yes, it's a heck of a year. That's for sure. So throughout this whole process of building your business, have you ever struggled with mom guilt?
Yeah, of course. Especially early on, like I said, I was working during nap time, but then I found myself trying to work when they were up. And at the time, like I said, I started this when my oldest was 3. And then I had a baby in the middle of all of this. And so ever since she has been born, this is mom's, she knows mom works. And sometimes I have to, okay, here's the truth. I am really not great at remembering things. And so there have been so many times where the kids have said like, hey, we need to do this. Or I have like the preschool was like, yeah, your daughter's picture day is coming up. Yep. Got it. She's the third. She drew marker all over herself. And I was like, no problem, whatever. You're in preschool. Have a good day. And that one of my friends is like, which package are you ordering? I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, well, for the school pictures today. I'm like, that's not today. She's like, yes, it is. And then my daughter comes out of school pictures. She's covered in markers. She picked out her own clothes that day. I don't even think we brushed her hair. And so it's just one of those things where I have to be like, okay, that's kind of our life. And sometimes I'm a really good mom. Sometimes I'm super fun and we make, cinnamon ornaments and cut them out. And then sometimes I forget it's school picture day. So
yes, this is what's always so interesting to me is like, you get the pictures back with the kid with the marker on her face or hair crazy or whatever. And like, I don't know about you, but sometimes it's like, like you get like, you beat yourself up. Like, why didn't I do that? This is my kid. This is what, but then it's like 10 years down the line, that's actually kind of the funny picture.
Right? That's what I'm going with. Like that day, I was like, this will be funny one day.
Yeah.
Someday.
So on the opposite side, like life isn't all gumdrops and lollipops. So can you tell us about a time where you gave up and now you wish you wouldn't have?
Well, like I said, I gave up a lot of hobbies before I found photography, and I wish I had stuck with that. I'm trying to think what else. There really isn't a lot when it comes to the business that I've given up that I wish I hadn't. I really struggle when I decided to take that time off of, is this quitting? Am I quitting? Am I just not good at managing my time? Am I, if I had worked smarter, like, am I making my life harder? And so I had a lot of like doubt with that for a couple months. And then I started sleeping so much better. I think I realized just after like 9 years of constantly thinking about a business and trying to grow and learn and absorb everything that it was a much needed break. But yeah, I definitely worried of like, am I going to be able to get back into it? Did I just quit my business that I built all this time? Because starting back up after not working for almost a year, all my habits are gone. I'm not motivated. And it was a challenge until I got back into it and remembered, oh man, I love helping people. This is really fun again. And so now I'm back into loving it. But I would say that was a scary time.
Do you have a renewed passion now that you're back into it?
I think I do. Yeah. Like I said, you do something for so long and you start to kind of get tired, but you want to keep doing it. And so taking that time off and then coming back, I've forgotten a lot of stuff. And thankfully I'm surrounded with amazing entrepreneur friends who, I had one of those days where I was like, I don't remember anything about SEO. Like, what is happening? Like, I know the basics, but I'm like, what am I doing? And so one of my girlfriends is like, call me. We'll get on a call. And so I'm like talking to her and I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for helping me. And she's like, well, you've helped me, And so I think it's one of those things that like, you just have to lean on other people and, not be scared to ask for help. But I'm excited about work again, which is nice.
Yeah. I think that can be hard. And I always struggle asking people for help. Like I always think that I have to just take it all on or figure it all out myself, but sometimes the path like to the end is quicker if you just ask people.
Right. And I was always trying to tell people too, like accepting help or even asking for help, the person who you're asking 9 times out of 10 is so happy and they want to give and they want to help. And so you're not only helping yourself, but you're helping that person, and so it's very humbling to have to say, I'm struggling, I need your help. But it's totally worth it.
Yes, absolutely. So for the woman out there who is struggling, maybe she wants to do something, whether it's a side business or just like do something she's passionate about, like a new hobby, but she feels guilty. What would you say to her?
I would say lose the guilt. And it's super easy to say that, obviously, but I would just say start small and start with something that's manageable, because I think especially for women, we feel pulled in 37 different directions, whether you have children or not. You always feel like you need to do something else. And I think taking that time to do something that you love, even if it's just 10 minutes a day. And that's something I really liked about that Project 365 is it forced me every single day to slow down and do this thing that I wanted to do. But I very easily could have said, I have a 4-month-old. I have a 2.5-year-old. I don't have time to learn this. And so if you don't set aside the time for yourself, no one else is going to. So I would just say, don't feel guilty. Just know you're taking care of yourself. And when you take care of yourself, you're able to take care of other people better.
Yes. Yes. And I almost think that it gives you the extra like oomph or the extra like drive that you need to do the other stuff. I like you said, you take care of other people better and then you're just not in such a crappy mood either.
For sure. I saw something going around that's like, when I'm in a better mood, you're in a better mood. And when I'm happy, everyone's, if mom ain't happy and nobody happy, but
Right,
definitely.
right. So somebody could look at you like maybe they look at your social media or your website and stuff now and think that everything was just easy to get there. But we don't always see the behind the scenes. So can you share with us one of the hardships that you faced to get to where you are today?
One of the hardest things for me, and I mean, this is from a long time ago, but in 2010, there was not a lot of information online of how to do this. There were not templates. One, I didn't have a lot of money. So I couldn't just go and there wasn't Squarespace. You had to buy your domain name and then you had to go into the coding and set the coloring and the font size. And I remember spending hours and hours just trying to get a blog that looked decent. And in fact, one of my readers early on said, hey, would you like my husband to create a collage for you up top? Because I didn't even know how to do that. There weren't even easy programs. I didn't have Photoshop. There aren't, all these Canva and all these other things that you can easily create graphics. And so her husband created a 3-photo bar for me and a watermark. And I remember just thinking like, oh my gosh. And I would just spend all this time. I think that whole first year just trying to figure out how to actually like set this up. And then my parents are like my number one readers. And I remember my dad being like, hey, I was just looking at your blog. The font's a little small. You should just make it a little bit bigger. And I'm like, that is not as simple as in going into Word and like highlighting the thing and making the font bigger. So just figuring all of that stuff out. And then once I decided I want to sell products, like, as I said, the first one, I didn't even know that launching was a thing. I thought you just told people and then they bought it. And so taking the courses and figuring it all out and kind of knowing where to turn to figure it out, because especially now there's so many places to learn how to do it. And there's so many conflicting voices. And so it's hard to know which one to listen to. That'll help you get to where you want to go. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's so much out there, but we're also just human and have so many dang excuses. Like we could just find a reason why we can't do it, or it's easy to look at like, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. So I think that no matter what time you get started, like you can always find an excuse or you can just go directly to it.
100%. It's very easy to be like, Facebook, Instagram, websites, emails, courses, like, oh my, never mind. That was a good idea. I don't think it's worth it.
Right. Just take one step forward and that's all you have to do, figure out the next step.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about your mindset. Can you tell me about your mindset and how it's led to your badassery?
Like I said, I haven't let myself quit. Like I've let myself take time off, as I mentioned, but every year I want to quit. And every year I'd call my mom or just tell my husband, like, this is it. I'm done. I'm got morning sickness or I'm exhausted or we moved to another country or I don't want to do this anymore. And luckily they always encourage me not to. And I know that I don't want to, but just kind of having that idea of like, this is what I want. It's going to be hard. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And it takes a lot of time. And then I am not one of those like word of the year people. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I have a hard time picking one word. And so I picked, I think it was Elizabeth Gilbert who said it, but she said done is better than good. And I know other versions are like done is better than perfect or something, but I needed a good, like done is better than good. And so just reminding myself that, because otherwise I can get caught up on trying to perfect a blog post or a pinnable image, or, you can sit and get lost in something for hours. But just having that mindset of like, okay, this just needs to be done because sometimes something is better than nothing. And then we need to move on to the next thing.
Right. And just because you think that it's just good doesn't mean that other people are going to think that. Like, other people are probably still going to think like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And if you don't get it out there, then, nobody would know.
I know, we're our own worst critics.
Absolutely. Do you have any tips or tricks to help us improve our mindset?
Reading books. Like I said, oh, now I can't think of the name. There's a book by Elizabeth Gilbert, Big Magic, I think is what it's called. I really like that one, especially for creatives, because it talks a lot about self-doubt. And I like the analogy she does where she talks about like going on a car trip when you're creating, and self-doubt is allowed to come, but they're not allowed to play with the radio or sit in the front seat or pick the snacks or anything. And so I think just reading a variety, I don't like to call them self-help books because I'm not trying to fix who you are, but just reading some books and finding a few that resonate with you, writing those little things down. I would put them on Post-it notes by my computer screen to remind myself. The done is better than good is actually framed in a little frame. And this is like the epitome of my problem, as I was like, I should frame that. I should go on Etsy and like find someone who can design that so it looks really nice. And then maybe in like 2 weeks, they'd send it to me. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I literally went into Word. I didn't pick a font. I just typed done is better than good, printed it on like my crappy printer and just put it in a frame. And so anyone coming to my house would look at it and be like, oh, I don't know what is happening here, But yeah, so books, recommend reading books.
Okay, but I do you see the irony in that? Like the done is better than good. Like you still tried to make it perfect.
Oh, it's so ridiculous.
So I think it's perfect that you just printed it off and did it.
I know. I have to. Like I said, I'm my own worst enemy. I can like talk myself into anything.
I know. And I think a lot of us are like that. Like we just want it to be perfect or want it to be right or don't want to look stupid, like putting it out there.
Yes.
But then if that's the case, it's like we would never get anything out there.
No, you'd be paralyzed
Yes.
with fear and perfection.
Absolutely. So can you share one of your mindset hacks for confidence and self-esteem?
So one of the things I do, because when you are working online, you obviously get people who want to share their opinions with you about you when you didn't even ask for it. And so one of the things I like to do is I keep an email box, like a folder in my email that just says kindness and encouragement. And so that way, when I get in one of those like funks where I'm like, I'm not helping anyone, maybe you get a negative email from typically a man telling you how you should, a 3-paragraph email on why your webinars are no good. It's like, okay, thanks. But just having that to just go in there and remind yourself like you are helping people, because it's easy to let that voice inside your head just spiral and keep going and think you're not actually helping anybody. No one's seeing your stuff. The algorithm's not putting your stuff out there. No one's replying to your emails. No one cares anymore. So just keeping those to remind yourself that like you are making a difference.
Yeah. And sometimes it sucks when you're being vulnerable and putting yourself out there and then you get like hate mail back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, luckily after all these years, I'm like, okay, thank you, delete and move on. But unfortunately, it still comes.
Yes. And so was it harder for you in the beginning?
Yes. I am like my love language is words of affirmation. And so to have someone go out of their way to tell you that you're not doing a good job, or I mean, I've even had people email me and tell me my photos aren't good, I need to stop, and stuff like that. And it kind of stops you in your tracks because that's not something most people put out into the world. That's not the like energy or kindness or anything. And so to have someone like send that to you is just kind of like, wow, I'm really sorry that you feel that way. And at first it took a lot, and it would really bother me. And I would call a best friend and can you believe somebody said this? But you can't help but then question yourself and think, am I, like that little voice. And so over time, I've come to realize like, okay, there are going to be people who have their opinions and I'm not for everybody. And that's totally fine because that's not my intent. And so you just kind of get those and you delete them and you move on. I don't save them or anything. I don't want to like, I just like, okay, thanks. Bye.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, a lot of times it's something about themselves. It's not even about you. You know, it's their
Mhm.
own unhappiness and anger. It's just hard to see that in the moment, like when it like stings a little bit, but
Yeah. When it's all directed at you.
yes. So let's switch and talk about badass advice, and this will be a little bit more rapid fire. Do you have a morning routine or evening routine that you could share with us?
I don't. I have a very bad morning routine of checking my phone. Don't do that.
Yes.
The one good thing I did set up on my phone recently is I have it set to at 9 o'clock. My iPhone shuts all my apps off. And so that has been a good reminder to me when I find myself just mindlessly picking up my phone to get on social, that that's not how I want to spend my evenings.
Oh, I love that. Do you remember the name of the app by chance?
It's not even an app. It's just on your iPhone. If you go into the
Oh,
settings and you go to screen time, you can click downtime. And so mine's from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m.
oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah, because it's so easy to get sucked into
Oh my gosh.
like social media.
Yeah. Especially Instagram with reels now. I don't know why. I just sit there and mindlessly watch reels. And I'm like, what am I doing? This is not a productive use of my time.
I know, I know. I get sucked in. If I'm away from it, it's like I don't miss it at all.
Mm-mm.
But then once I start scrolling, it's just like, oh, this is funny. This is cool.
Yeah.
What's one thing that you've learned from a woman in your life?
I think I learned from my mom to follow your passion. As I mentioned, she too was a military spouse and we moved around all the time. And so she wasn't able to do what she probably wanted to do. She was busy raising us and moving around. And so when they finally retired, she started her own online business where she teaches or she designs quilt patterns. And so seeing that, even before I started my own business, it's someone, I hate to use words like later in life, because I think everyone has in their head, like, oh, if you didn't start by 20, then, we
Yeah.
might as well, why bother? And so just being able to watch her grow her business and try new things and work with technology. And it's amazing.
um, can you share a habit or a practice that has contributed to your success?
Um, Following a schedule, like commitment. When I was first starting, I created a schedule of how often I would post. And I was very regiment to that. And so whenever I'm mentoring people or trying to help them, although not everyone loves the schedule, I am like, I eat and breathe by my schedule. If I know on Tuesdays emails go out, then Tuesdays emails go out. And so that has really helped me a lot.
Do you think that goes back to the James Clear, like the atomic habits? Like if you just do it the same way, then you don't have to think about it every time?
For sure. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Like you don't have to think about it. If you have it all written down that on these days of the weeks, you draft out your thing, this is your day for brainstorming future projects. And you don't have to sit down and think, oh, what am I going to do today? Or I'm overwhelmed. I don't really feel like working.
Yes, absolutely. How often do you read? And can you share or recommend a book and share why?
So I'm sure everybody says this. I wish I read more than I did. I like to, for fun read, I like to read historical fiction. But I tend to actually this time of year, like become obsessed with reading and I like devour like 10 books to kind of make up for, I guess, like the lack of reading throughout the year. Well, if you're just looking for like a fun nonfiction or a fun fiction, I loved The Nightingale. But an actual, like, if you want to, one of the books I really love is Profit First. Of course, I can't think of his name right now.
Is it Kalowitz or Michael something?
Yeah. Yes. It's Michael something and it's an interesting last name. I'm not sure if I'd be able to say it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm off on the last name, but
I'll
look it up and put it in the show notes.
Yeah. Yeah, I read that book about 3 years ago and that book alone, if you want to sleep at night and not be worried if you have enough money to pay your business bills, I loved it because before when I would make a business investment or something outside of the normal monthly bills, I would just look at my bank account and say, sure, I'm probably have enough to buy this course. It's probably fine. Whereas with his book, I love it because he talks about having different checking accounts. And so you have an account for just your income, and then twice a month you go in, depending on your percentages, and you divvy that up between your expenses and your profits and your owner draw and your taxes. And what I love is he's really big into, from the moment you make $1, you should be taking a profit. And I think it's very easy for us to continue to always put all the money back into the business, because you can always find the next monthly program that you want to pay for. And this person had it and their opt-ins are better, so I should probably pay for that too. And so having an expense account that you see, okay, this is how much money is in there, then you can easily make a decision and you sleep at night knowing I have enough money to pay all the bills.
Yes, so good. I keep hearing about that book and I haven't read it yet, but I'll have to check it out.
It's so good. It's so good. But if you don't have time, I've heard that he has a good podcast too.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll throw those in the show notes. And let's end with a tip to encourage women who are in the arena fighting for the life that they want.
As I mentioned earlier, I would just say, just decide today what is something that you want to work towards, and make out a list of how to do it. Whenever I'm working on something, I will actually write out step by step everything that has to happen. So say you want to quit your job and start an online business or something, then what are the steps that you need to take to do it? Buy a domain name, install a theme. I mean, just something as detailed as that. It sounds silly, but instead of my to-do list saying, write blog post, I will write research, SEO keyword, outline blog post, write blog post, insert photos, do SEO work, create a title. And so it's a lot more work ahead of time, but it takes out all the guesswork later, and it makes it attainable, because instead of this thing I would like to do eventually, maybe you want to launch a course. You don't want to just be like, someday I'm going to do that. Okay, let's map it out. What do you need to do? Now let's look at that list. How can we break that up? When is your timeline? When do you want to do it? How do we do this? I'm very big, and like I said, into list and planning and schedules. And so yes, a little bit every day you can do it.
Okay, OTBers, you heard it from Courtney. Decide today, make your list, and make it happen. So Courtney, thank you so much for being on the show. You've been a total badass, and I've enjoyed hearing your story.
Thank you. It's been so fun.
Yeah. With that, we'll end our show. To all the badass women out there staying in the arena, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, own it and get after it. All right. I had such a great time talking to Courtney, but I totally forgot to ask her, how can we connect with you? So you can find Courtney at clickitupanotch.com or on Instagram at clickitupanotch, all one word. So make sure to check it out today. By the way, I love Courtney's Instagram page, so check it out. And if you like this episode, please head on over to iTunes and leave a 5-star review. Reviews are so important to get this show in front of other people like you. So if you left a review or shared this with a friend, I would be so grateful. Then, of course, screenshot it and send it to me on Instagram. That way I can give you a proper thank you. All right, get ready for Thursday when you hear why Courtney Slazinik is so badass.
Now that you've listened to this episode of Ordinary to Badass, we want to hear from you. Go to our website, ordinarytobadass.com/podcast, and submit your own experience on how you took your life from ordinary to badass, and get the chance to be on a future spotlight episode of the show. That's ordinarytobadass.com/podcast. While you're waiting for the next episode of the show, wipe off the sweat, dust off the dirt, and get back in the arena.